Battle Through the Heavens, episode 184. At the end of the previous episode, a 10,000-foot large firestorm swept over the sky at this instant. Its frightening temperature caused fierce flames to rise across the eastern Dragon Island despite it being extremely far away. Some of the weaker individuals were shocked to find that the blood in their bodies had begun to boil. What a terrifying firestorm! The extremely chaotic battles across the eastern Dragon Island became quiet when this earth-shaking storm appeared. Many pairs of eyes were filled with a rich shock as they stared at this firestorm that filled their sights. Even someone as strong as Xuan Mo ended up revealing a solemn expression when he sensed this annihilation force. It seems to be an attack unleashed by that brat. The expression of the first elder from the western Dragon Island suddenly changed. His voice contained great shock. What? Xuan Mo's and the other first elders' eyelids twitched upon hearing this news. Their hearts were filled with disbelief. If they were to get swept into such a terrifying attack, they would not survive. Yet such an attack had originated from the hands of that advanced one-star Du Sheng. He is indeed worthy of being a friend of the Dragon Emperor. With his help, the Dragon Emperor might have an easier time. The group from the eastern Dragon Island exchanged glances. It was possible for them to see a joy on each other's faces. This was something they could feel excited about after having listened to a continuous string of bad news. Xiaoyan's figure rapidly pulled back within the empty realm. A jade bottle appeared in his hand while he was pulling back. He quickly stuffed the medicinal pills into his mouth. Having unleashed the yellow spring divine anger and the most frightening 5-colored lotus flame in a row had exhausted him. Moreover, he had also formed the 3,000 lightning illusory body at the last moment and took advantage of the 3 Dragon Kings' inability to sense their surroundings after they had been struck by the yellow spring divine anger to quietly appear behind them. Finally, he exploded the angry Buddha lotus flame and completely engulfed the 3 Dragon Kings within the most destructive strength of the fire lotus. These few attacks that he had unleashed would cause even an expert 3-star Du Sheng to suffer a serious injury if they had been caught off guard. Xiaoyan was clearly aware of the might of the yellow spring divine anger and the angry Buddha lotus flame. One specialized in attacking the soul, while the other boasted an exterminating destruction. The strength from the combination of the two could be described as terrifying. The storm was like a natural disaster in the empty realm, as it emitted a frightening temperature and an annihilation like wave. Even Xiaoyan did not dare to easily touch these assault waves. Although the yellow spring divine anger and the angry Buddha lotus flame are extremely powerful, the body of an ancient void dragon is also unbelievably tough. Additionally, the 3 of them possess extraordinary abilities. It would be difficult to kill them. Xiaoyan's eyes rapidly flickered while he swiftly flew back. Roar! The enormous firestorm in the distance violently shook as this thought flashed through Xiaoyan's heart. Its rotating speed gradually slowed. Finally, a dragon roar that was filled with a wild, murderous intent was emitted from the firestorm. They are indeed not dead. Xiaoyan's heart slightly sank upon hearing this dragon roar. It seemed that he was really dreaming of he wanted to kill the 3 Dragon Kings with one strike. Bang! Soon after the dragon roar was emitted, a dragon claw that was hundreds of feet in size was violently extended from the storm. 3 dragons, which were tens of thousands of feet long, forcefully rushed out of the firestorm. Those large blood-red dragon eyes were incomparably vicious as they stared intently at Xiaoyan in the distance. These 3 extremely large dragons were the actual forms of the 3 great Dragon Kings. But their appearances were extremely miserable. Blood flowed out of their enormous dragon bodies like streams. Over half of their scales, which were as large as a human head, had been shattered. Deep wounds covered their bodies like gullies. It was even vaguely possible to see dense, white bones within the wounds, even though the 3 of them had survived the yellow spring divine anger and the angry Buddha lotus flame. They had paid a heavy price. Little bastard, this king will ensure that you suffer a fate worse than death. 3 huge dragons lingered in the empty space. An extremely dense dragon might spread apart. It appeared as though the entire world was trembling at this moment. Vicious roars rumbled over this empty realm like thunder before spreading into the distance. Xiaoyan appeared just like an insignificant ant as he stood in front of these 3 humongous dragons. His face involuntarily twitched a couple of times at this moment. The bone wings behind him were flapped and his body suddenly pulled back. The three large dragon kings had already gone crazy. He would likely end up dying if he were to fight with them. Bang! Xiao Yan's body had just pulled back when the three large dragon kings widened their ferocious large mouths. Three light pillars that were 1,000 feet wide shot out with a bang. The light pillar contained an extremely terrifying destructive force. It was likely that Xiao Yan would completely vanish if he was struck by them. Angry Buddha reincarnation. The three large light pillars sealed off all of Xiao Yan's paths of retreat. His expression had become completely grave at this critical moment. 4 clusters of heavenly flames were spat out of his mouth. They rapidly swelled and turned into a 1,000-foot large plate created by a ring of fire. A mysterious energy slowly spread from within the plate. This was a unique Do skill that Xiao Yan had comprehended while advancing to the Dosheng class back then. The enormous fire plate had just been formed when the first light pillar came rushing over with lightning-like speed. Finally, they collided with each other. Bang! The entire world was quiet the moment the collision occurred. A strange force was emitted from within the circular fireplate before the light pillar emitted a swoosh sound as it shot backwards. Grug, although the light pillar was reflected, the force that penetrated the fireplate still caused Xiao Yan to spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. Bang bang! The other 2 light pillars quickly followed behind the first light pillar, but all of them were eventually reflected. Nevertheless, the fireplate also exploded with a bang after the last light pillar was reflected. Another mouthful of fresh blood was spat out of Xiao Yan's mouth as his body flew back 10,000 feet. Boom, boom! Those 3 reflected light pillars were ruthlessly smashed into the enormous bodies of the 3 great dragon kings in front of their stunned eyes. This caused their originally miserable injuries to worsen. Kill him! This wild and violent roar reverberated around the empty realm. Even the most sinister Northern Dragon King had become furious at this moment. The combined attacks of the 3 of them, the 3 great Dragon Kings, not only failed to swiftly finish Xiao Yan off, they had instead allowed Xiao Yan to leave them worse off. They would lose all of their reputation if this matter were to spread. All of you will have to lose more bones if you wish to kill me. Xiao Yan once again forcefully stabilized his body. He lifted his somewhat pale face and wiped away the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. His black eyes revealed some craziness. The 3 great dragon kings were cornering him to death. Xiao Yan spat out some blood as a madness rose within his eyes. Both of his hands formed a hand seal, and an enormous illusory figure once again covered his body. Mao! A giddiness spread through Xiao Yan's head as the illusory figure appeared, but he continued to clench his teeth. He once again activated his spiritual strength to unleash the yellow spring divine anger. The frightening spiritual strength assault surged once again and ruthlessly struck the 3 great dragon kings. At that moment, the giant blood-colored eyes of the 3 great dragon kings revealed a dimness. 2 continuous spiritual attacks posed great harm to them. Die! The Northern Dragon King was the first to recover from this spiritual assault. His large body suddenly swayed as it swiftly transformed into a human figure. With a flash, he appeared in front of Xiao Yan. His expression was ferocious as he threw a punch forward, which heavily landed on Xiao Yan's chest. Grug! A large mouthful of fresh blood was spat out of Xiao Yan's mouth. His expression was ferocious as he looked at the vicious face of the Northern Dragon King in front of him. A wild smile appeared on his face. A 4-colored fire lotus appeared with the flip of his hand and subsequently smashed into the body of the Northern Dragon King. Explode! Boom! A fire lotus erupted once again, and the Northern Dragon King was sent flying back 10,000 feet due to the explosion. Mouthful after mouthful of blood was madly spat out as though it cost nothing. He did not expect Xiao Yan to be even more ruthless than him. Xiao Yan had exchanged a punch for a punch. The interior of Xiao Yan's body was turned into a complete mess by the Northern Dragon King's palm after Xiao Yan had used his remaining strength to unleash a fire lotus that sent the Northern Dragon King flying. Even Xiao Yan's chest had slightly sunk in. Without his extremely strong body, it was likely that the palm from the Northern Dragon King would have caused his body to explode, resulting in his death. 2 light figures accompanied by an earth-shaking murderous desire came rushing over while Xiao Yan was struggling to catch his breath. They were the Southern and Western Dragon Kings. The eyes of those 2 were bright red, and they appeared quite mad. The 3 great Dragon Kings had been beaten into such a miserable state by someone from a member of the younger generation. Just thinking about it caused the rational thoughts of those two to be overcome by craziness. "Little bastard, go and die." The expression of the Southern Dragon King was ferocious. His arm transformed into a huge claw that ruthlessly slammed toward Xiaoyan's head. If this palm were to strike Xiaoyan, Xiaoyan's head would have ended up exploding into a bloody fog. Looking at the rapidly magnified dragon claw in front of him, Xiaoyan's body began to tremble in the face of such a deadly threat. The heart in Xiaoyan's chest suddenly began to rapidly beat. The strange bloodline hidden in his chest had begun to quietly flow out. It swiftly entered the many blood vessels within his body. Bang! 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 After the feeling of that blood flowing into his blood vessels, Xiaoyan suddenly felt his strength, which he had completely exhausted, completely return in an instant. Moreover, it appeared even stronger than his previous peak condition. This sudden change caused Xiaoyan to be startled. He quickly recovered and was preparing to hurriedly dodge when an extremely bright golden light suddenly flashed past his eyes. "Qi!" Xiaoyan's eyes were shocked as the golden light flashed past because he saw the arm of the Southern Dragon King be hacked off. The spot where the arm was broken was extremely smooth. The shock quickly disappeared. Xiaoyan suddenly turned his head around, only to find a purple-haired figure slowly walking through the air. A liquid, like golden sword, slowly flowed through her hands while a destructive force quietly spread from it. At the same time, a mysterious, icy, cold voice spread with a pressure. "This emperor will forever imprison you in the dragon prison if you dare touch him." The long purple hair naturally belonged to Ziyan, but her body currently radiated a terrifying pressure that frightened Xiaoyan. This pressure originated from the liquid, like golden sword, that she held in her hand. The Southern Dragon King looked at his missing arm with dull eyes. After having transformed into a dragon arm, the defenses of his body had already reached an extremely frightening level. Even if he were to receive a direct blow from a 5-star Dao Sheng, it would be impossible for his arm to be cut off with such ease. However, dragon-slaying sword. Is it the dragon-slaying sword? You have summoned the dragon-slaying sword. This dull state continued for an instant before he was felt the intense pain transmitted from his lost arm. The Southern Dragon King suddenly lifted his head. He looked at Ziyan walking through the air. Finally, his eyes paused onto the liquid, like golden sword that she held. His eyes shrank to the size of pinholes as a shocked exclamation containing great disbelief was roared from his mouth. The heart of the Western Dragon King by the side also wildly shook. Those bright red eyes revealed a shocked expression in them. His entire body trembled as he looked at the liquid, like golden sword in Ziyan's hand. A horrified expression finally appeared on his face. The dragon-slaying sword was not a weapon. Instead, it was an extremely powerful Dou skill owned by the ancient Void Dragon tribe. This Dou skill could only be unleashed by the ancient dragon that possessed the purest royal bloodline. Even the 3 great dragon kings were unable to use it. But none of them had ever expected the current Ziyan to be able to summon it. It should be known that even the last Dragon Emperor had to reach the strength of a 6-star Dao Sheng before being able to barely summon the dragon-slaying sword. However, Ziyan was only at the initial 4-star Dao Sheng class. The dragon-slaying sword, as its name suggests, was specifically used to slay dragons. This could be considered a technique that only belonged to the Dragon Emperor. Unless one's strength far surpassed the ancient dragon wielding the dragon-slaying sword, the ancient dragon would be as weak as being curd under the sword. Dragon-slaying sword. Everyone on the Eastern Dragon Island froze at this moment. They raised their heads. All of their eyes contained a rich fear as they looked at the figure standing in empty space. Even an expert like Xuan Mo involuntarily felt his body tremble. They were all feeling a fear and terror that originated from their bloodline. The dragon-slaying sword was the thing that all ancient Void Dragon feared the most within their hearts. The Dragon Emperor has actually summoned the dragon-slaying sword. The many elders on the Eastern Dragon Island trembled as they looked at the empty realm. They were so excited that tears rolled down their faces. A Dragon Emperor who could summon the dragon-slaying sword was a true Dragon Emperor. Hence, from this moment on, Ziyan finally possessed the authority to command the entire ancient dragon tribe. The dragon-slaying sword has already appeared. It is obvious who the Dragon Emperor is. All of you should stop being obstinate. Be careful of ending up in a terrible state when the dragon-slaying sword descends on your head in the future. The first elder from the Eastern Dragon Island floated in the air and roared out loud while holding a dragon-shaped walking stick in his hand. The expressions of some of the warriors from the 3 Dragon Islands changed upon hearing this roar. Even Xuanmon and the other 2 elders did not dare to utter a single word at this moment. The pressure of the dragon-slaying sword radiated across the empty realm, causing them to feel extremely uneasy. They felt as though the thing that could slay a dragon, as if it were slaughtering a chicken, would suddenly descend and fall on their heads. Bang, bang! Silence covered the Eastern Dragon Island. A moment later, some warriors from the 3 islands could not endure this pressure that originated from their bloodline. They knelt down to the empty space in the distance. Soon after this first group of people knelt down, an increasing number of ancient dragons began to make a choice after struggling, and in the end, they chose to surrender. The expressions of Xuanmo and the other powerful upper echelons of the 3 islands gradually paled upon seeing more warriors kneel. They were aware that the situation today had already been decided. In the future, the Eastern Dragon Island would definitely far surpass the 3 Great Dragon Island. Hurry up and leave. The Western Dragon King forcefully suppressed the horror in his heart when the situation on the Eastern Dragon Island situation drastically changed. A furious roar sounded, and his body instantly pulled back. The Southern Dragon King was unconcerned about his broken arm. His face was filled with shock as he pulled back. Traitors, dragon-slaying sword, execute. Ziyan's purple eyes stared at the 2 retreating figures with cold indifference. An icy bone, chilling voice was emitted from her mouth, and the dragon-slaying sword was slowly lifted and swung at the Western Dragon King. The sword swung down. A strange fluctuation rippled from the tip of the sword with lightning-like speed. The Western Dragon Island sensed something the moment the sword came swinging down. The terror in his eyes became even more intense as a low roar was emitted from his mouth. Layer after layer of dragon scales rose over his head, body, arms, and half of his body. These dragon scales contained a strange luster, as though they were unbreakable. However, this extremely powerful defense crumbled in a short instant. That strange energy emitted from the dragon-slaying sword penetrated space itself and gently slashed across his body. Grug! The fluctuation passed by, and the expression of the Western Dragon King paled immediately. A mouthful of fresh blood was wildly spat out as he lowered his head in shock. He could see a large savage-looking wound sliding down his shoulder as it headed toward his waist. The tough dragon scales covering his body split like bean curd. The slice was extremely smooth as fresh blood rolled down beneath the dragon scales. One was even vaguely able to see his moving internal organs inside. Just a slash was all it took to seriously injure the Western Dragon King. The might of the dragon-slaying sword could indeed be described as terrifying against an ancient void dragon. Ah! A miserable screech sounded from the Western Dragon King's mouth as an earth-shaking cry. An intense pain that penetrated deep into his bones caused his body to tremble. Wave after wave of dizziness continued to assault his mind. The Southern Dragon King, who was a short distance from the Western Dragon King, felt his limbs turn icy, cold after seeing the slice form. He violently swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He ceased having any thoughts of rescuing others at this moment. The only thought he had was to hurry up and leave. The might of the dragon-slaying sword had almost caused him to collapse. Gulp! Xiaoyan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His heart was full of shock. He had personally experienced just how frightening the defensive strength of those 3 were. Even his strongest extermination fire lotus had only injured them. But this gentle slash from Ziyan's sword had nearly taken the life of the Western Dragon King. Hurry up and escape. The Southern Dragon King emitted a roar as his body swiftly retreated. That Western Dragon King also understood that he would simply end up dying if he remained behind. He grabbed the savage-looking wound on his chest, maneuvered the Do Chi within his body, and crazily retreated. Chi! Ziyan slowly walked past Xiaoyan. Her eyes were cold and indifferent as she watched those 2 flee. She once again lifted the dragon-slaying sword in her hand and gently slashed it down. The moment this sword slashed down, Xiaoyan saw a small lock of long purple hair belonging to Ziyan turn into a grayish-white color. This dragon-slaying sword is exhausting Ziyan's life force. Xiaoyan's heart shook violently the moment he witnessed her hair change. Since you wish to corner us to death, I will have an all-out fight with you. A feeling of imminent death immediately rose within the Western and Southern Dragon King's hearts as Ziyan's sword slashed down. They had both seriously injured. They would likely be dead if this slash struck them. Moreover, their prior experience told them that they would not be able to escape the dragon-slaying sword. The both of them were forced into a state of madness as a large mouthful of pale, golden blood was suddenly spat out of their mouths. Dragon Emperor Bell. The golden blood swiftly spread in front of the both of them and turned into a 100-foot-tall golden bell, which wrapped around the Western and Southern Dragon Kings. Clang. That strange fluctuation approached with lightning, like speed after the large golden bell was formed. Finally, it smashed with the large golden bell. Bang! That large golden bell emitted waves of circular ripples the moment the loud sound was emitted. Chi! The large golden bell exploded, and the lingering ripple struck the Western and Southern Dragon Kings. One leg from each of them flew off. Within a short few minutes, the two great Dragon Kings had become crippled Dragon Kings. Do you think that traitors are worthy of unleashing the strength of a Dragon Emperor? A cold smile rose on Ziyan's face as she looked at the extremely miserable duo. The dragon-slaying sword in her hand once again mercilessly slashed down. Grug! This sword was not successfully slashed down as Ziyan's delicate figure trembled after she had just lifted it up. A mouthful of dark, golden blood was spat out of her mouth as her expression paled. Although this slash was not completed, there was still a fluctuation emitted. It swiftly rushed toward the Southern and Western Dragon Kings. In their seriously wounded state, the two of them could only sense the ripple grow closer with shock and fear. Swoosh! However, a figure hurried over with lightning-like speed after the two were about to be struck by that ripple. It was the Northern Dragon King, who had yet to show himself. He grabbed the two of them by a shoulder, and a mouthful of golden blood was spat out. Subsequently, he sped up and disappeared from the empty realm within a couple of flashes. Ah! A miserable screech was emitted from the direction they had fled soon after they had disappeared. Clearly, they did not escape the mysterious fluctuation. The three great Dragon Kings have been defeated. The bodies of Xuan Mo's group on the eastern Dragon Island immediately turned icy cold after they watched the three miserable figures flee. Their bodies began to rise from the ground as they fled in all directions, along with some of the three islands' elders. It would be suicidal for them to remain behind at this moment. What a terrifying sword. Xiaoyan looked to where the three Dragon Kings had disappeared before his eyes shifted to the seemingly liquid-like sword in Ziyan's hand. He involuntarily inhaled a gentle breath of cold air in his heart. Grug. Ziyan's body did not move even as the three Dragon Kings escaped. Her purple eyes were filled with a cold intent as she stared in the direction the trio had vanished. A moment later, that seemingly liquid-like golden sword in her hand shook and scattered into nothing. A mouthful of fresh blood was spat from Ziyan's mouth while the dragon-slaying sword vanished. Her body also began to slowly fall. Xiaoyan was startled upon seeing her fall. He hurriedly moved forward and caught her. His heart involuntarily ached after seeing her extremely pale face. It seemed that using the dragon-slaying sword greatly exhausted Ziyan. Moreover, this kind of exhaustion did not appear to be simple Du-Qi exhaustion. "I'm fine." Ziyan's eyes looked at Xiaoyan as she lay in his embrace. A somewhat forceful smile surfaced on her face. Xiaoyan involuntarily shook his head upon hearing her response. He simply hugged Ziyan and sat down in the air. The condition his body was in was also extremely terrible. If the bloodline strength that had been emitted from within his heart had not healed a lot of his damaged medians, it was likely that he would have been paralyzed and left a cripple. Even though he wasn't a cripple, the current Xiaoyan was also at his limits. The injuries he had received from fighting the three great Dragon Kings alone were too serious. "Well, eat up. These are the danwan that you enjoy eating the most." Xiaoyan pulled out a jade bottle from his storage ring and poured a couple of round pills out. He waved them at Ziyan and laughed. "Are you still treating me like a little girl?" Ziyan involuntarily rolled her eyes at Xiaoyan after hearing his teasing words. She unceremoniously grabbed those pills and stuffed them into her mouth. But the way she ate these pills was undoubtedly more refined than before. She did not simply devour them like when she was a little girl. Dragon Emperor. The Eastern Dragon Island's first elders group swiftly flew over from below, after which they halted a short distance from Ziyan and respectfully called out, They were quite tactful. All of them merely glanced at the two of them before hurriedly lowering their heads. First Elder, is the Eastern Dragon Island all right? A faint redness surfaced on Ziyan's pale face after seeing these elders lower their heads. She swiftly recovered her calmness and struggled to stand from Xiaoyan's embrace. Her somewhat weak voice regained a pressure to it. Reporting to your majesty, the Dragon Island is fine. Many members of the three great Dragon Islands have fled. However, there are quite a number of members from the ancient Void Dragon tribe who have chosen to remain on our Eastern Dragon Island, the first elder respectfully replied. The people he had mentioned were naturally those from the three islands who had knelt earlier. I temporarily accept them and keep an eye on them. There might be a spy from the three islands among them. Ziyan slightly nodded and replied, Understood. What about the three great dragon kings? The first elder nodded before asking a question in a hesitant manner. The three great dragon kings were the greatest obstacle to the reunification of the ancient dragon tribe. The western and southern dragon kings had their limbs severed by me. Even if they can recover in the future, their strength will definitely be diminished. Just the northern dragon king alone will not be able to achieve anything great. Once the eastern dragon island recuperates, we will launch a counterattack and complete the unification. A sharp expression flashed across Ziyan's purple eyes as she spoke in a faint voice. Perhaps it was because she had the constitution of a dragon phoenix. But there was a pressure flowing from her words when she spoke. In the face of this pressure, even Xiaoyan quietly felt a little speechless. It was difficult to imagine that extremely greedy little girl would become this fierce after growing up. Understood. The first elders group sighed in relief after hearing her response. They respectfully replied. None of them dared to remain any longer as they bowed and flew back to the Eastern Dragon Island. Ziyan, who had wielded the dragon-slaying sword earlier, caused them to feel fear within their hearts. Ziyan turned her head only after seeing the first elder and the others leave, only to see Xiaoyan's somewhat strange expression. She was startled as she asked, What is it? The Dragon Emperor, this is a really big hat to wear. Xiaoyan shook his head and sighed. Compared to this Ziyan, he still preferred that innocent and lively little girl who liked to stay beside him all day for a meal. It is not as though I have put on airs in front of you. Why do you need to sigh? Ziyan glanced at Xiaoyan. She suddenly approached him. An evil smile appeared on her exquisite face as she said, Don't you like this appearance? I frequently saw you placing your eyes on elder sister Kailin's body in the past. Cough. Nonsense. Xiaoyan's face turned red as he glanced at Ziyan. That tone of hers like the greedy and heartless little from before. He. Ziyan covered her mouth and softly laughed, after which she quickly stopped laughing, looked at Xiaoyan, and said, Thank you very much this time around. If you had not held off the three dragon kings off for such a long time and seriously injured them, this immature dragon-slaying sword of mine would not have been able to create such a deterrence. It is not necessary to thank me. I have put in a lot of effort during this period because of you. Xiaoyan rolled his eyes. In order to help Ziyan resolve the trouble she faced, he had thought of many ways to pull the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe to her side. Moreover, he had even killed and captured the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe along the way. He threatened them with hostages in order to force them to retreat. After having hurried over, he had even engaged in a bloody all-out battle with the 3 great dragon kings. Had it not been because of his strong body, he might have really ended up dying. Of course, given Xiaoyan's character, he would naturally not mention what he had done for her. He waved his hand and rushed back to the Eastern Dragon Island. His body had only just moved when waves of intense pain from his twitching meridians was emitted. His face twitched as he gently inhaled a breath of cool air. It has been so many years, but you still like to put on a strong front. You should recuperate on the Eastern Dragon Island during this period of time. A fragrance was transmitted from beside Xiaoyan as he inhaled a deep breath. He sensed his arm was lifted up, after which it made contact with smooth and soft skin. He turned his head, only to find Ziyan supporting him. She moved her body and flew toward the Dragon Island in the distance. Ziyan's hair danced as she flew. Pieces of it gently swept over Xiaoyan's face and appeared entirely free of worry. The big fight on the Eastern Dragon Island had finally come to an end with the Eastern Dragon Island obtaining a major victory. The strength of the Eastern Dragon Island would undoubtedly soar after this battle. It would far surpass the three Great Dragon Islands. On the other hand, the three Great Dragon Islands would show signs of declining. The dragon-slaying sword was the symbol of the Dragon Emperor. In the past, many of the warriors from the three islands did not believe Ziyan was the Dragon Emperor. However, this doubt would undoubtedly vanish following the incident today. Summoning the dragon-slaying sword by the true Dragon Emperor created a pressure that originated from within their bloodlines and would cause those from the three Great Dragon Islands to make a choice after some considerations. In the future, the three Great Dragon Islands would no longer have the opportunity to attack the Eastern Dragon Island. They would change from being in control of the situation to only being able to respond. All they could do was helplessly wait for the Eastern Dragon Island to gather its strength before it finally eliminated the three islands to complete the unification of the ancient dragon tribe. Of course, quite a bit of time was still required before getting to that stage. The Eastern Dragon Island fell into a busy atmosphere after the defeat of the three Great Dragon Kings. There were many things to resolve after the battle, especially since the Eastern Dragon Island had gained many new residents. While the entire Eastern Dragon Island fell into a busy atmosphere after the big battle, Xiaoyan had found a hidden room and announced that he was taking a retreat. The injuries that he had suffered this time around had really been too serious. He had even nearly ended up dead. Hence, he needed to adjust the condition of his body to avoid a sequela that would impede his advancement. Otherwise, his losses would really be unbearable. A faint sandalwood fragrance lingered within a quiet room. Xiaoyan sat down on a stone platform that was made from cold jade. Both of his eyes were shut. A rich energy surged around his body. It followed his breathing cycle as it slowly entered his body. It had been 10 days since Xiaoyan had entered this chamber. The extremely serious injuries within his body had gradually recovered. Despite the improvements of his injuries, Xiaoyan did not show any signs of waking. His body seemed to have turned into a stone statue. He had been maintaining this unmoving stance since he had entered. However, no one was aware that the calm mountain-like expression on the surface did not mirror the true situation within his body like one would imagine. Bang, bang. The heart within Xiaoyan's body slowly pounded. A tendril of purple, red blood would appear each time it pounded. This blood would slowly seep out of his heart before finally spreading in all directions. This string of purple-red blood seemed to possess an extremely terrifying temperature. The meridians and muscles it flowed through would suddenly boil. This kind of boiling did not cause Xiaoyan to feel any intense pain. Instead, it vaguely carried the mysterious feeling of being reborn. Xiaoyan did not know why this was happening. Soon after this retreat of his began, that newly formed bloodline strength that had been hidden deep within his heart had automatically flowed out at this moment. This strand of bloodline strength might appear a little weak, but it possessed an extremely mysterious effect. The reason the serious injuries in his body were healed within 10 days was mostly because of this purple-red blood. Although Xiaoyan did not understand why this purple-red blood was acting opposite of its usual quietness, he did not purposefully control it. He let it do its thing. Of course, the reason why he allowed it to act as it pleased was because he gradually sensed his strength slightly increase each time the purple-red blood circulated around his body. The purple-red blood seemed to be continuously tempering and refining his body. This refinement was undoubtedly good for Xiaoyan. Hence, he did not obstruct the process. With the flow of time, he gradually entered a slumber-like state. His heart continued to beat slowly in a rhythmic fashion as he descended into a slumber. Wisps of purple-red blood flowed out and tirelessly refined Xiaoyan's meridians and flesh. Of course, with this temperament, Xiaoyan's aura slowly rose while he was deep in his slumber. The concept of time became extremely blurry within the completely quiet room as a sandalwood fragrance slowly drifted. It was filled with a scent that braced one's attention. Time quietly flowed by amid this atmosphere of leisure. 3 months. Xiaoyan sat in his retreat for 3 full months. Even he himself would not have expected it to take so long. But he had completely forgotten about time in his slumber. He had been submerged in the beautiful feeling of tempering his physical body. Xiaoyan quietly sat on the cold jade bed within the quiet room. His skin was revealing a faint purple color. It was vaguely possible to see a faint purple-red color under his skin. An extremely powerful fluctuation spread from this purple-red flow. The glow flickered. At this moment, this glow was spreading around Xiaoyan's body. Circular purple, red glows spread from his heart and reached every single corner of his body. This glow continued to flow around his body for 3 months. The 3 months of tempering dyed Xiaoyan's originally pale skin a purple-red color. Even his black hair had vaguely turned a little red. He appeared like demon with just a glance. Of course, it was not only Xiaoyan's outer appearance that had changed, his aura had also reached the true peak of an advanced 1-star Dousheng. A little more, and he would be able to break through to the 2nd star of the Dousheng class. Having his body tempered by the bloodline was really benefiting Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan did not wake from his state of slumber after his aura reached the peak of an advanced 1-star Dousheng. Time slowly flowed by as Xiaoyan remained in this state of slumber. 91 days, 93 days, 97 days, 99 days, 100 days. Time passed by one day at a time. The moment the 100th day arrived, a strange rumbling sound suddenly appeared within the quiet room. This sound appeared like flowing water. If one's eyes searched for the origin of the sound, one would surprisingly find that it was being emitted from Xiaoyan, who was seated on the cold jade bed. The space around Xiaoyan violently fluctuated after the rumbling sound appeared. Waves of substance, like energies, began to agglomerate into many clusters of wind that lingered around Xiaoyan and emitted a howling sound. The spinning wind increased its rotating speed. In the end, an increasing amount of energy poured into the quiet room and was absorbed by the vortex. The size of this vortex rapidly swelled. Bang! The hard, quiet room was torn apart by that large wind at this moment. Glaring light shone in from outside. What is it? What happened? The energy vortex that had suddenly appeared on the eastern Dragon Island was immediately detected by many experts. Many figures rushed forward. They appeared outside of the quiet room where Xiaoyan was at within a couple of flashes. Their eyes were filled with shock as they watched the energy storm that was wildly spinning. Do not panic. Everyone should return to their posts. A faint voice was emitted from the Dragon Hall while everyone was feeling surprised. A couple of figures hurried over and appeared in the sky. Those figures were Ziyan and the little fairy doctor's group. The members of the ancient Void Dragon clan hurriedly bowed upon seeing Ziyan. All of them began to slowly withdraw by some distance. I was wondering why he needed such a long time to recuperate. He is actually intending to break through. Ziyan floated in the sky. She looked down at Xiaoyan, who was within the vortex, and laughed. The little fairy doctor and Qing Lin by the side also quietly sighed in relief. They had been extremely worried in their hearts during these 3 months. If Ziyan had not guaranteed that nothing would happen, they would not have been able to stop themselves from forcefully barging into the room. After all, the injuries that Xiaoyan had suffered this time around were too severe. Everyone had been worried that something untoward might have happened to him. Fortunately, the worst thing that they had imagined did not occur. On the other hand, Xiaoyan had ended up being blessed by this disaster. He had borrowed the bloodline strength within his body to make an attempt at reaching the 2nd star of the Dousheng class. Brother Xiaoyan is indeed an extraordinary person. He was merely an initial Dousheng a couple of months ago. Now, he is experiencing an opportunity to break through to the 2nd star. Yao Ming by the side also let out heartfelt praise. Although he would occasionally return to the 9 serene deep-ground Python tribe during this period of time, had spent most of his time on the eastern Dragon Island. It had been difficult for him to find an opportunity to grab onto a big support like the ancient Void Dragon. Naturally, he would attempt to find as many opportunities as he could, especially now that the eastern Dragon Island was showing signs of reunifying the ancient Void Dragon tribe, while everyone in the sky was discussing Xiaoyan's transformation. The energy that poured into the vortex from the surroundings became even more terrifying. In the end, the vortex even became viscous. Drops of energy could vaguely be seen floating around the vortex. They gradually emitted a frightening fluctuation that altered the expressions of others while the vortex rotated, as an increasing amount of energy gathered into energy droplets. The energy vortex appeared to turn into an energy whirlpool. Within a short few minutes, the final bit of energy also agglomerated into a droplet of liquid and merged with the enormous whirlpool. Bang! The entire whirlpool began to violently tremble the moment the vortex transformed into a whirlpool. Soon after, Xiaoyan, who had descended into a 100-day slumber, suddenly opened both of his eyes. Two shocking purple red lights shot out of them. The two purple red lights shot toward the sky. Many of the members from the ancient dragon tribe on the eastern Dragon Island felt a strange pressure from this purple red light. The pressure originated from their bloodline. This is the pressure of the Dragon Emperor bloodline. Why would it appear in his body? The many members of the ancient dragon tribe were stunned because of this pressure. Surprise flashed over Ziyan's face as she stood in the sky. She could sense a familiar feeling from within the light. It is the Dragon Phoenix bloodline strength. Moreover, it is mixed with some other energy. They were naturally unaware that Xiaoyan's bloodline strength was the merger of the Xiao clan's bloodline, the Gu clan's bloodline, and the Dragon Phoenix's bloodline. Thus, there would be a Dragon Phoenix sent to it. Xiaoyan widened his mouth abruptly while many exclamations sounded on the eastern Dragon Island. Everyone quickly saw that enormous energy whirlpool turn into a water pillar that was devoured by Xiaoyan. Bang! The cold jade bed that Xiaoyan had been sitting on blasted into pieces after the final drops of the energy liquid were sucked into Xiaoyan's body. An unusually frightening aura slowly spread out of his body and covered the entire island. Success! Ziyan's group slowly sighed in relief within their hearts after sensing the frightening aura. Their eyes were filled with joy. Xiaoyan lifted his head and slowly exhaled a mouthful of viscous air. This air agglomerated together and turned into a drop of liquid that fell onto the cold jade dust below. A light flashed, and those cold jade pieces of dust regathered into a stone platform. Moreover, there was an extremely shocking energy fluctuation being vaguely emitted from the platform. Xiaoyan stood up after letting out a long breath. He clenched his hand, and an extremely powerful force spread from every cell within his body with lightning-like speed. What a strong physical body! Xiaoyan briefly sensed the condition of his body, and a joy flashed across his eyes. After being tempered by his blood during these 3 months, the strength of his physical body would likely not be inferior to that of an ancient void dragon. I have really gained a blessing from disaster this time around. Xiaoyan's hand gently touched his chest. If he had not experienced a life-and-death battle this time around, the bloodline in his heart would not have activated, and he would have been unable to break through to the 2nd star of the Dusheng class with such speed. His physical body would also not have been strengthened to such an extent. Moreover, Xiaoyan sensed that there was still some tendrils of purple, red blood flowing out of his heart and refining his body despite him not being in a slumber. Although the effect was much weaker, it was superior in terms of its longevity. This continuous temperament would likely end up quite terrifying as it accumulated. Haha, brother Xiaoyan. Congratulations. You have once again made a breakthrough after a short few months. This kind of training speed really causes me to feel ashamed. A hearty laugh was transmitted from the sky, while Xiaoyan was feeling slightly joyous about the changes in his body. Yao Ming's group descended from the sky and landed a short distance from Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan cupped his hands to Yao Ming, after which his eyes shifted to Ziyan. His heart sighed in relief after seeing that she had recovered. It seemed that Ziyan had also recovered from her weak state back then. How long did this retreat of mine last? Over 3 months. It has just reached 100 days. The little fairy doctor smiled and replied, 100 days? Huh. Surprise flashed across Xiaoyan's eyes upon hearing this news. He suddenly asked, has the Alliance sent any news? Yes, some news was delivered a couple of days back. It was from Yao Lao. He requests that you hurry back to the Falling Star Pavilion as soon as possible. The little fairy doctor's face revealed a grave expression. She looked at Xiaoyan and softly said, the purifying demonic lotus flame is about to be born. It seems that the Hall of Souls has begun to act. Looks like they are planning to target the purifying demonic lotus flame. Xiaoyan slowly nodded. It was close to the time when the purifying demonic lotus flame would be born. Xiaoyan was already aware that the Hall of Souls would be unwilling to simply remain quiet. They would definitely try to snatch a mysterious natural object like the purifying demonic lotus flame. Since this is the case, we will head back to the Falling Star Pavilion today. We also need to discuss the matters regarding the demon flame. Xiaoyan's voice was a little deep. He had put in a lot of effort for this purifying demonic lotus flame. He would need to put in more since he would have to deal with the experts from the Hun clan. He needed to obtain the demon flame regardless of what happens. Are all of you planning to return to the Central Plains? I will also accompany all of you." Ziyan by the side smiled and informed everyone after hearing the conversation of Xiao Yan's group. Xiao Yan was slightly startled after hearing this news. He asked, "You are also leaving? The Eastern Dragon Island just experienced a big battle. Is it a good time for you to leave now?" Xiao Yan was naturally aware that Ziyan was intending to aid him in obtaining the purifying demonic lotus flame. Xiao Yan's chances of success would undoubtedly rise if he was able to obtain the help of an expert who had reached the 4th star of the Dao Sheng class. But the current Eastern Dragon Island... It's fine. The 3 great Dragon Kings have suffered serious injuries this time around, and the Western and Southern Dragon Kings were crippled. There is no telling just how long they will need before they can recover their strength. The elders will resolve the matters of the Eastern Dragon Island appropriately. Ziyan blinked at Xiao Yan and smiled as she replied, "You have aided me too much this time around. I must at least try to return the favor. Right?" Xiao Yan hesitated for a moment after hearing Ziyan's insistence. He finally nodded. The fight for the purifying demonic lotus flame would definitely involve the Hall of Souls. Moreover, the Hall of Souls would cease underestimating him. Hence, the experts they would dispatch would definitely be quite strong. It would be a lot safer if an expert of Ziyan's strength accompanied them. "When are we going to leave?" Ziyan's eyes revealed some excitement after Xiao Yan had relented. Her tone seemed to suggest that she could not wait to head out. Xiao Yan looked at her with a somewhat strange expression. Could it be that this girl had become irritated by having to stay on this Eastern Dragon Island and was using this opportunity to head out and relax? Since there is no longer any issues to deal with, we should leave now. Additionally, Tribal Chief Yao Ming, please help me watch over Kai Lin when you return to the 9 serene deep-ground Python tribe. Among the 3 hostages of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, we will first release Ju Feng. Otherwise, they might do something drastic in their anxiety. Kun Feng and Ying Feng will continue to be detained on the Eastern Dragon Island. 2 Dao Shengs are still able to restrain them. Additionally, the 3 Great Dragon Islands have suffered a miserable defeat. Even the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe will likely not dare to try to rescue them. Xiao Yan turned his head and smiled as he spoke to Yao Ming. Although Yao Ming was quite strong, he had only recently regained the tribal chief position. Moreover, he had even offended the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. Naturally, he could not be away for too long, hence, Xiao Yan did not request his help. "Aye." Yao Ming smiled and nodded. He cupped his hands while facing Xiao Yan as he said, "In that case, I hope that your journey will be smooth." Xiao Yan grinned. He ceased speaking as he waved his sleeve. A spatial tunnel formed beside him, after which he took the lead to slowly step into it. The others swiftly followed behind. Ziyan swiftly gave some instructions before flying into the spatial tunnel in front of the helpless eyes of the first elder from the Eastern Dragon Island. Clouds lazily floated in the azure sky. Warm sunlight scattered down from the horizon, causing everything to fill with a laziness. Swoosh! Circular ripples suddenly appeared in the quiet sky as a spatial crack was also slowly being torn open. Many human figures slowly walked out of it. "I've finally left that damn island. Why in the world did those people shift to that kind of damn place in the past?" Ziyan inhaled a deep breath of fresh air after exiting the spatial crack. She spread her arms. Her beautiful face appeared somewhat intoxicated. Xiao Yan's group faced each other after witnessing Ziyan turn from the extremely imposing Dragon Emperor into someone with the characteristics of a little girl. They could only helplessly shake their heads. Despite becoming the Dragon Emperor, this girl still hid her character from back then within her. "Let's go. This area is already within the territory of the Alliance. We should be able to arrive at the Falling Star Pavilion soon." Xiao Yan's eyes looked around him. After obtaining his bearings, he waved his hand and swiftly led the way to the Falling Star Pavilion. The current speed of Xiao Yan's group could be described as terrifying. Within a short few minutes, many cities had begun flashing below them. However, Xiao Yan ended up frowning after seeing that many of these cities had been damaged. Clearly, they looked as though they had experienced many battles. Looks like it has not been peaceful within the Alliance during this period of time. This thought flashed through Xiao Yan's heart after capturing the situation along the way. His speed suddenly quickened as his body vanished into the horizon with a flash. Yao Lao, Ancestor Ho Yun, the first elder from the Pill Tower. and some others were all gathered within a large hall in the main building of the Falling Star Pavilion. Their expressions were a little gloomy. Clearly, their moods were bad. During this period of time, around half of the 300-plus important cities within the Alliance have been attacked. Although these attacks might appear to be from various factions, there are experts from the Hall of Souls mixed among them. Yao Lao's eyes swept over the hall as he slowly stated. His eyes contained some fury while he continued. The Pill Tower has also delivered a message. There has been an increase in the number of sneak attacks recently. Many alchemists have ended up disappearing after the sneak attacks. All of us should be clearly aware of who is behind this. These people from Hall of Souls are becoming increasingly arrogant. Ancestor Hu Yun's two fiery red eyebrows moved as he ruthlessly spoke. The first elder from the Pill Tower by the side also nodded with a grave expression. Even someone as calm as him had become a little furious by the Hall of Souls' despicable methods. Fortunately, the Alliance has already established patrolling guards. This has ended up preventing a lot of trouble from occurring. However, everyone in the outside world knows that the Hall of Souls has turned our Sky Mansion Alliance into a complete mess and filled us with fatigue. Some of the neutral factions that were planning to join the Alliance have been shaken by the methods of the Hall of Souls until they have begun to hesitate. This is bad for our reputation if this continues. Yao Lao commented on the situation. What do you have in mind? The first elder from the Pill Tower slowly asked. We will do to them as they have done to us. They have attacked our cities. In that case, we will attack their branch halls. A chill flashed across Yao Lao's eyes as he spoke in a deep voice. Oh! The first elder from the Pill Tower and ancestor Huo Yun were slightly startled upon hearing this. Although the Sky Mansion Alliance was quite strong, there was still a gap between them and the Hall of Souls. Yet Yao Lao was planning on launching an attack. It had been many years since someone had attacked a branch hall of the Hall of Souls. After all, that was no different from pulling the tail of a tiger. Everyone was hurrying to hide from the Hall of Souls, given their fierce reputation. Who would dare head to their territory and fall into the other party's hands? Although the Hall of Souls is extremely powerful, many of their experts are located at their headquarters. Their branch halls are not as frightening as one might imagine. We will not need to be afraid of not dealing with them as long as we gather our strength. Yao Lao faintly smiled as he spoke. Currently, the Sky Mansion Alliance was indeed weaker than the Hall of Souls, but this gap was not extremely great, although there was the Hun clan behind the Hall of Souls. There were also other ancient clans constantly monitoring them. Hence, there wasn't a need to worry about the Hun clan launching a big campaign to destroy the Sky Mansion Alliance. Xiao Yan possessed the Toshe ancient jade in his hands, and the Gu clan would definitely not simply idly watch the ancient jade fall into the hands of the Hun clan. Hence, the Gu clan would definitely not sit there if the Hun clan dared to attack. Haha, teacher's words are correct. It is not polite to not reciprocate the visit from another party. The Hall of Souls is too arrogant. Now is the time to suppress them a little. A clear laugh suddenly sounded within the large hall while everyone was pondering the plan. A gentle breeze blew as a couple of figures appeared in the hall. They were surprisingly Xiao Yan's group. Xiao Yan. Everyone was startled upon seeing this person before they revealed surprised expressions. You are finally back. Huh. Your aura. Ancestor Hu Yun laughed and chided. He was just about to stand up when he suddenly appeared to have discovered something. His expression was slightly startled as he stared at Xiao Yan and exclaimed, Two-star Du Sheng. The first elder from the Pill Tower also swept his eyes over Xiao Yan. A moment later, he sighed and bitterly laughed. Within half a year, you have directly leaped from the initial 1-star Dao Sheng class to the 2nd star. Are you purposefully trying to cause me to be too ashamed to show myself through this speed? Yao Lao was a little stunned. Clearly, he had not expected Xiao Yan's strength to soar after having been away for half a year or so. However, he quickly turned his head and joyously fondled his beard. His eyes shifted slightly before they suddenly paused on Ziyan, who was beside Xiao Yan. His expression finally became grave. He might only be a high-level Ban Sheng, but his spiritual strength was unusually powerful. He was able to sense just how terrifying Ziyan was. Who is this? Yao Lao stood up. He appeared quite grave as he cupped his hands to Ziyan and inquired in a courteous manner, Ancestor Huo Yun by the side and the first elder of the Pill Tower seemed to have also detected this frightening person after Yao Lao treated Ziyan with a polite posture. A shocked expression surged within their eyes. How did Xiaoyan bring back such a powerful existence after leaving on a trip? Ziyan was involuntarily a little embarrassed after seeing Yao Lao being so polite. She had met Yao Lao in the past, but back then, she still possessed the appearance of a little girl. Teacher. She is Ziyan. You have met her before. Xiaoyan smiled and said, however, she is the Dragon Emperor of the ancient Void Dragon tribe. She is here to aid me in obtaining the purifying demonic lotus flame. The Dragon Emperor of the ancient Void Dragon tribe. The ancestor Hao Yun's and the first elder of the Pill Tower's hearts pounded violently upon hearing this title. Their eyes revealed some disbelief as they looked at Xiaoyan. They could not believe that he could befriend such a frightening existence. An existence like the Dragon Emperor of the ancient Void Dragon tribe was an extremely mysterious existence in the eyes of many people. Of course, even an ordinary ancient Dragon tribe member was legendary to some people. After all, the ancient Void Dragon tribe rarely came to the Central Plains. The ancient Void Dragon tribe was as mysterious and powerful as those ancient clans in the hearts of many people. The Dragon Emperor within the tribe was an existence like the clan head of the Gu clan or the Hun clan. This expert was someone even people as strong as ancestor Hao Yun and the first elder of the Pill Tower had never met. Hence, they could not hide the shock that surged onto their faces after they heard that Ziyan was actually the legendary Dragon Emperor. Haha. It is unexpected that Lady Ziyan holds such an identity. This elderly self was indeed a little blind back then. Yao Lao was startled by Xiaoyan's words. He only recovered a moment later before he solemnly cupped his hands and laughed. Ziyan felt a little unnatural by Yao Lao's politeness. She was aware that Xiaoyan viewed Yao Lao like a father. She didn't want to display the so-called Dragon Emperor airs in front of him. Teacher, there is no need to be overly polite. You can simply treat her like the little girl in the past. Xiaoyan was also aware of Ziyan's thoughts. He smiled and continued, since teacher has made this suggestion earlier, I think that you have already chosen a branch hall to attack, right? Yao Lao's expression was a little grave upon returning to this topic. He said, after starting our full-scale investigation of the Hall of Souls, we have managed to gather a lot of information. The Hall of Souls has many branch halls in the Central Plains. There are 24 of them that are more important. The Hall of Souls calls them the Disha Halls. The branch hall that I had been imprisoned in back then was one of these Disha Halls. Disha Halls. Xiaoyan slightly nodded. This was something he had never heard about. Above the Disha Halls are the Tiangang Halls. These halls are more important to the Hall of Souls, Yao Lao slowly said. The Tiangang Halls are divided into heaven, earth, and man. The Heaven Hall is the headquarters of the Hall of Souls. We are currently unaware of its location. This time around, our target is the Man Hall among the Tiangang Halls. Man Hall. Xiaoyan muttered and asked, what is the strength of the Man Hall like? The Earth Hall is managed by the Deputy Hall Chief, while the Man Hall is managed by the first and second Tianzun. Of course, we must not eliminate the possibility that the Hall of Souls has strengthened its defenses. Yao Lao replied, that third Tianzun died in my hands back then. The second Tianzun, Saint Guyu, is only a high-level Bansheng. I will not need to fear him if we meet again. Looks like we can take down this Man Hall. Xiaoyan faintly smiled. His smile was a little dark and dense. He truly hated the Hall of Souls. He had nearly died to these bastards many times over the years. But he had grown now. Perhaps he should take the initiative to collect a little of the old debt. Leave this matter of destroying the Man Hall to me. The Alliance still need experts to guard it, to protect against any attempt by the Hall of Souls to do the same to us. Hence, I hope that Ancestor Hu Yun and the rest will guard this place. Xiaoyan's eyes shifted to Ancestor Hu Yun and the first elder from the Pill Tower as he spoke. I shall accompany you. The location of the Man Hall is quite secretive. It would be difficult to find, even if one has a map. Yao Lao hesitated before he added, all right. Xiaoyan hesitated upon hearing Yao Lao's statement before nodding. He had Ziyan, a 4-star Do Sheng, beside him. There were not many experts within the Central Plains who could threaten them. Even the Hall Chief of the Hall of Souls would not be able to easily defeat Ziyan and take all of their lives. In that case, all of you should rest for a few days. After that, we will head to the Man Hall. Yao Lao fondled his beard. A fierce glint flashed through his eyes. He and Xiaoyan had to hide when they had been pursued by the Hall of Souls. Now, they were determined to cease hiding. How could their hearts feel comfortable if they did not take revenge 100 times over? "Daddy." Xiaoyan looked at little Xiao Xiao, who was stepping through the air as she joyously ran toward him. He hurriedly stepped forward and hugged that little figure who had come flying over. A faint warmth spread from his heart. "Daddy, where is Mummy?" Little Xiao Xiao's large black eyes looked behind Xiaoyan. She looked in all directions in an attempt to find Kai Lin. "Ha. Mummy is still training. She will return to little Xiao Xiao once she completes her training," Xiaoyan explained with a smile. He hugged little Xiao Xiao while an exclamation was suddenly emitted from his mouth. He discovered that the vast and mighty energy that had randomly been flowing within little Xiao Xiao's body had calmed down. The energy also vaguely flowed and changed according to her desire. Xiao Xiao's training talent is extremely great. Within half a year, she is already able to control the energy within her body. She can be considered a genuine elite dozong. Yao Lao by the side smiled and remarked, "Dozong." Xiaoyan rubbed Xiao Xiao's small head. He involuntarily let out a bitter laugh. Back then, he had to train and experience many difficulties just to reach the dozong class. In the end, Xiao Xiao did not need to do anything as she easily stepped to this level. Thinking about this really caused one to sigh. Moreover, she is extremely interested in pill refinement. I am planning to wait for her to become a little older before teaching her the flame mantra. After which, I will help her look for a heavenly flame and slowly familiarize her with it. The gaze that Yao Lao used to look at Xiao Xiao was extremely doting as he laughed. "You really dote on her too much." Xiaoyan was helpless. He handed Xiao Xiao in his embrace to the curious Ziyan behind him. They stared at each other while Xiaoyan clenched his hand and a jade bottle appeared in it. There was a drop of golden liquid floating inside the bottle. An extremely frightening ripple was vaguely emitted from it. "What is this?" Yao Lao's expression was slightly altered upon seeing the blood within the jade bottle. He could sense the terrifying strength within it. The essence blood left behind by an expert with half a step in the Do D class. Xiaoyan smiled. He glanced at Yao Lao and said, "If teacher consumes it, it should be possible for you to swiftly reach the first star of the Dao Sheng class." Yao Lao carefully received the jade bottle. He flipped the jade bottle around and observed it for a long time. He was a little hesitant. This thing was far too precious, and it would benefit Xiaoyan more. "I have already consumed it. It will not do much if I consume it again. Teacher should train for the next few days. We will head to the man hall after you complete your training, and then we will eliminate it from the central plains." Xiaoyan smiled. He turned around and pulled both Ziyan and Xiao Xiao out of the hall before Yao Lao could utter another word. Yao Lao stared at Xiaoyan's back. He let out a bitter laugh a moment later, after which he clenched the jade bottle in his hand. A warmth filled his heart. Xiaoyan remained in the Falling Star Pavilion the next few days. Having nothing to do, he began to pass on some of his Dao skills to Xiao Xiao. The shocking talent that she displayed caused Xiaoyan to feel completely astounded for the first time. It was likely that only she could be described as a true genius. His so-called young genius title back in Wutan City was insignificant when compared to the current Xiao Xiao. Xiaoyan properly enjoyed the feeling of being a father for 5 days. That feeling would cause him to occasionally feel like he truly matured. His current self was no longer that reckless, tender youth from back then. Instead, he was a true giant, like existence. Yao Lao, who had been in a retreat, finally appeared in front of Xiaoyan on the 6th day. Yao Lao's overflowing aura let Xiaoyan know that he had broken through to the first star of the Dusheng class. Xiaoyan was not surprised by Yao Lao's breakthrough. Yao Lao boasted a good foundation. With his accumulated strength and the demon saint essence blood, it was only natural for him to reach the first star of the Dusheng class. Xiaoyan's group quietly disappeared from the Falling Star Pavilion on the 2nd day after Yao Lao's had broken through. Only a small group of upper echelons were aware that the Sky Mansion Alliance was retaliating against the Hall of Souls. The Burial Mountain Range was located at the intersection between the western and southern regions of the Central Plains. Due to its terrain, this place contained an extremely dense, dangerous aura. That dark aura was mixed with a rich corpse scent. because most of the people within a 500-kilometer radius were buried in this place. Hence, this burial mountain range was a strange mountain range that was built with tombs. It was difficult to find any human figures under normal circumstances. No one would be willing to stay in a place covered in a ghostly aura. Swoosh! The rushing sound of some wind suddenly appeared in the burial mountain range's quiet sky. Rays of light flashed above as a couple of figures appeared in a flash on the top of a mountain deep within the mountain range. Their eyes were locked on the deepest part of the mountain range. There was a distortion in space hidden behind a large grey-colored tree. The manhole of the Tiangang Halls is in the deepest part of the burial mountain range. However, they placed a spatial barrier here. They will detect it the moment someone enters. Yao Lao pointed at the deep region as he explained. Xiao Yan slightly nodded. He glanced at Zi Yan. She smiled and gently waved her sleeve. The space around the distortion suddenly fluctuated before it turned into an enormous spatial barrier that completely covered the area. This time around, there is no need to leave any survivors. Xiao Yan slightly raised his head. A dense expression appeared on his face. Hall of Souls. This revenge has finally come over a decade later. It isn't too late, is it?